you're here with me
Mm-hmm.
because I really do want to have a good conversation with you about purpose and legacy building, right? So I did not realize how important legacy was to me until I had this reflective moment about my work. So I've had the fortune to plan an annual convention for NSBE. Do you remember what the theme was when I planned the national convention? He was on the committee with me, so if you're like, why would he remember? But do you remember what the theme was?
I don't.
Honoring our legacy, moving our community forward.
Okay.
What's the name of our foundation?
The Gaskins Foundation.
Who's it named after?
Your pops.
We have a scholarship that we give out to young girls. Who's it named after?
Wesley.
Our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Our late daughter.
Mm-hmm.
We have another one that we give out through the Girl Scouts. What's it called?
Frida Gaskins.
Who's that?
Grandmother.
I literally was like, everything we do is about honoring legacy, and legacy is important to me. And I think a lot of it is like, I don't know if you feel the same way. So I feel selfishly, I name things and like you just rock with it. Like you're like, okay, that's cool. We'll just keep rolling with it. But it's honoring my family. How does that feel for you? And like, do you feel that same tie to legacy that I'm feeling?
Oh, absolutely. But also,
Okay.
so the thing is, I grew up, I won't say grew up, but I was surrounded by a family of people that were making a mark. And so, and I say not grow up because this was my family in Toledo. When I grew up in Detroit, but when I went to Toledo, it was always the Powell family because there was hundreds of them there. But not just them living there. Like my uncle had a beauty and barber salon. My other uncle had a barber shop, and this was all 2 generations ago when Black people didn't really have these things, but they built these things, and so there was always a legacy. So I was always around legacy.
So you've seen it in action.
Yes, I mean in Toledo, like they tell the story of there was a whole street called Powell Avenue.
Okay, so much so, I don't know if I've told you this. I participated in a leadership program for the state of Ohio. And there was a woman in my cohort from Toledo, right? Like I'm representing Cincinnati, she's representing Toledo. And I was like, oh yeah, my husband's family's from Toledo. Do you understand that she knew everybody in your family and could tell your family's history? Like, so when you say like Powell Avenue, people still refer to it kind of as Powell Avenue, and they all know the beauty barber supply store.
But it's still there.
That is beautiful.
So I always grew up around that, and I'm always, because I know you're building, and so I'm always going to support you.
Do you feel like I leave you out?
No.
I'm like worried about that now. Like I'm in my head like, man, I don't name anything after, like as a couple, I have not named anything after the couple outside of our late daughter, right? Like that's a shared experience that we've named the scholarship after her. Like I feel so blessed that we were able to do that. But I don't, like I've never done anything outside of like the Gaskins line of this union.
No, because, well, people that don't know won't understand. Like half the times when we're coming up with this stuff, I'm suggesting it.
Ooh. What was one of your suggestions?
I think Wesley White.
Yes, it was yours.
Was mine.
Absolutely. I was traumatized and hurt. I did not even think we were going to get there. Absolutely.
I think when we told the story of the foundation, originally it was Gaskins Foundation, but we weren't telling the story of how you got there. And I said, no, I think your father, because, and at some point I think you would want to tell his story, how brilliant he was, but because he was sick, he didn't get to do the things, and so how he put that into you. And it's also, I see you as the way you could change the world.
Don't do this. You're going to make me emotional.
No,
I've had an emotional week. So
I think I've seen you as the only person in the engineering space as Black faculty.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that. Like people say, and this is not to take away from anyone. Like, okay, there are black faculty in spaces. I think, ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble. I think to have in all the time where you work, I won't say the name, but in all the time that they've had this institution, to be the only one that, like, there's no one else there that has done that, and it's not because they couldn't. I've seen the barriers you had to overcome, and I also know engineering, again, not to take away from anything, but engineering is this different.
It's a different
It's a
beast.
different, and we were sitting around. I remember this, and this is probably will sound random. They were like, Whitney, would you ever color your hair red or like a burgundy? And it made sense. I mean, there were people there with burgundy hair who were faculty. I said, she can't do that. And it's not because I was like, she's in engineering. Like engineers are like 2 weeks away from polos and khakis to work. Like to be in engineering is different.
So literally, they talk about the way I look all the time because it's so outside the norm. So not only am I like the only black woman, which actually changed. We hired a second black woman this year. Okay, anyway, so I'm not the lonely only anymore. We're lonely together. Out of 180 faculty, we're the only two. They comment about the way I look all the time. Where are you going? To work. Y'all don't get dressed to come to work?
They don't.
Then they'll be like,
have you seen them?
They think that like all of my clothes are fancy and like, they were like, oh, you really are into fashion.
Compared to polos and khakis.
Mind you, I'm not dressed. Like, I'm literally wearing just a regular, like, dress from Macy's, like, off the rack. Like, I can take it there, right? Haven't taken it there at work. And they still think I'm trying to show up and show out. And I find that to be horrible. Why? Because it lets you know that people to matriculate through those doors dampen their authenticity to be in those spaces because it's so wild that you would wear color to work. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
They're not used to it.
They're not used to it. Go ahead.
So I think your star is bright, but I think where it has the potential to end up, you know, you're just at the base level. I think if people knew where you should be, I literally have seen you arguing with people who are just based on title 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of you. And I'm like, oh yeah, she's better at that than they are. They just don't know it.
I find that this is so not what I thought we were going to talk about, but I do find that like there's such a high level of distrust in me that it's jarring sometimes. And I don't know how to professionally flex on people so that way they can understand, like, y'all are new to this, not me.
Right.
Like, right now, things are changing about how we pay for certain things, right? Like, and I'm left out of conversations because they don't think I have the experience. I've managed $1 million budgets since I was 19, 20 years old. No joke, $1 million budgets. And I can't even get an answer on a $100,000 budget. It's crazy to me that I can't be trusted to handle money. And I've managed money in larger organizations, bigger profiled organizations, all on my own. And this is over a decade ago, right? Like these are decades have gone by, and I've been doing it, and I still can't get trust. But I think it's just because I don't know if it's because I'm black or a woman or the combination of the two, but I find that like high levels of distrust in me as a black woman.
And I think the only way to do it is you just have to show them. Like, and I think what will happen is what does happen, you do it, and then there's that level of surprise. But the second time you do it, Oh no, that wasn't a fluke. This
I
is
see.
who I am. So you just keep doing it. Like,
I don't get the opportunity to though. So that's
yeah,
part of the
I mean,
problem. Like I
you also
first got
can.
to
I
get that
mean,
first opportunity, and you can't fumble the
yeah,
bag.
we
So it's like
learned
a whole.
from
From what?
Dr. Gay at Harvard. Like, they all no.
Go ahead, talk about it.
We learned that y'all are nitpicked, and they will weaponize anything they can against you. Now,
I feel incredibly seen by you, which shouldn't surprise me because you are my husband, but like it doesn't mean that you fully understood or grasp the black woman experience in spaces. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you for highlighting the fact that you see that, which isn't necessarily different as a black man navigating the spaces of America. Like you also have those things, but I just thank you. I feel very appreciated and loved that you see those things.
oh no, when they were coming for her, first of all, I was like, oh, they're never going to let this go.
Which thing? What thing were you
Any
talking-
of it.
Oh yeah, you are never allowed to make a mistake as a
Like, she's made that mistake.
yeah.
They were always going to come for her, even though other people
Have made the same mistake
worse
and worse. Yeah.
intentionally have done things, but they won't talk about that. So, but I've seen, and this is for me, as we would say, ear hustling. I've heard you have conversations or things like that. This is not a high level conversation to even be bothering her with. Like, imagine the work she could be doing if she didn't have to spend 2 hours talking about where this $50 receipt is.
The fact that people think that I would even venture to steal from an institution always blows my mind because, and I think people can casually think those things because people do crazy things in workplaces, right? I'm not ignorant to that. But I think they forget that my positionality in the world is like, I'm not stealing nothing from nobody because I don't want to go to jail for 20 years for stealing a $20 nothing. Like, I know that if I were to break the law in this way, that the consequences for me are going to always be higher. And I know that, so I work very hard to not make mistakes, which is also impossible because I'm a human being, but I feel that pressure. So it's so weird to me that I'm always accused of things they don't accuse. How do they do it? It's nitpicking, implying that I'm doing something wrong. They always imply it. Yeah.
I think some of it is, and I think you get so many awards. I think in many times they're just trying to find a way to bring you down a notch.
I have never in my life been so insecure about something that I have been told I should celebrate. I feel so blessed. So at home, I'm excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got honored. But I never want to tell anybody else outside of you and the kids. Because I get I just cringe because all it does is put a target on my back. And I know that I'm not going to be celebrated, but instead questioned about why. Like, no one ever sees me. I deserved this because I did this thing that you refused to do, or you don't even care about. I cared about and I did it, and other people cared about it too, and they wanted to celebrate me, but I can't even get there because I have to always validate why I got award. It's such a bad place to be. It actually makes me really, really sad that I can never be proud of my accolades in the same way as somebody else. I've cried about it before, which is a big deal for me. I don't like crying, and so I say that like I can cry at a commercial, like when they do those, like the animal commercial and they show, right? Like I have that, but like I'm not gonna be crying in front of people. And I have absolutely like won an award and immediately felt dread because I knew that that just put another target on my back for someone to come after me instead of celebrate me. And I hate that for myself. I hate that for me. Okay, so we weren't supposed to be talking about that, but I will say, how did you get there? Like, what made you think of like a black woman's experience when we were talking about legacy building? Like, why did that come out for you?
Well, I think you were asking how some of the things that are legacy in terms of what we're building, how
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got there, and
I,
I don't know if you were. I don't know if the implication is why don't I put my name on stuff?
it is. I was going to ask you that. We
I
don't have a
don't want
Delano
my.
White. Why not?
I don't know.
I will.
I think.
Full disclosure,
I
nothing's
think.
named after me either. But I didn't change my last name when we got married.
I think some. I think when the
So,
time is right, we will.
ooh.
We do so much stuff. I think when we do, there'll be something that I won't put my name on.
What we're capable of when we are resourced adequately.
I don't. People would. People, if they knew the things that we have, just brainstorm on just notepads everywhere. It always becomes a question of if we could really do that, we could solve these problems. And so it's about resources. And I think people do support us. And I think,
Oh, we have amazing supporters.
yes, and I think us getting into a positionality to where people know we know what we're talking about, that helps. And I think it's going to continue to help. There's no doubt.
Have you ever gone into the work thinking about like, what's my legacy even going to be? Have you ever thought about that?
No.
I didn't either. And now I'm starting to. And I don't know if it's because we have children. And so I'm like, okay, how are we helping them? But now I'm putting more intentional thought about what I'm leaving behind. The foundation isn't that, right? The foundation is for the community to thrive. So even though they get probably like name legacy out of that, that's not what we're leaving our kids. So I'm always just curious, like, so you don't put intentionality behind it at all. That even now, like, there's no part of like, I want to build this for my children's future.
I think as we keep building, how we impact our children will become clearer.
I have a different level of respect for your mom because of who she is and the things that she was able to build in her time, right? So this is a woman who at what, 8, enrolled herself in a different school because she felt like she could.
High school.
What high school student do you know is like, not learning enough here, and gets on a bus and
Did it multiple times.
enrolls themselves in a different school because they're like, I want to learn and I want to be better? That's your mother,
Yes.
right? Why is this important to me? I don't want her story to ever get lost or not be told. But in this moment now, she is suffering from some cognitive disorder that's undiagnosed. So we don't know if it's Alzheimer's, we don't know if it's dementia, we don't know what's going on. And we're her caregiver. And watching this has made it ever more important to me to make sure we're honoring people in our lives in a way that people don't lose the story. This woman is a STEM professional. So our whole thing is like building the STEM ecosystem. And we do a lot of work to help people help in that charge. And we've never talked about your mother being a technologist with a master's degree, enrolling herself in school in a time where she wasn't welcomed, doing it. We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose it.
Yeah, it was interesting because my mother, there's always a few stories that my mother told. The story about her saying, okay, that school over there is too rough, I won't learn. So she got on the bus and went to another school and was there a few days before somebody was like, I don't think she's supposed to be here. So they sent her back, and she did it again after a little while. And then finally, I think they came upon an understanding of where she was supposed to be. But
Did she end up at the school she wanted?
I don't know if she ended up at, but they definitely didn't send her to the school. Because I think my uncle and aunt had either went there or had graduated or were going there.
Okay.
And it was kind of a rough school in Toledo. And she was like, I'm not going to school there. And
Not
she
doing it.
didn't get my grandparents' permission or anything. She just picked a different school and started going there.
And went to class?
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't think that, I just feel like that's miraculous for some reason. I would never have thought to enroll myself into a better school because I wanted a better education.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other one was she took a job. She was doing IT way before IT was
A thing.
You know, now it's like everybody
Well,
wants
I
to do
mean,
IT.
computer science and IT is like the hotness at the moment.
So
Yeah.
she was doing this, 40 years ago?
Yeah.
And so I remember she took a job with the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that apparently it was a time when working for a government in these roles was frowned upon.
Working for the government? People wanted government jobs. What are you talking
Not
about?
when she first started.
Okay, tell me
So
more.
we'd had to get
Educate
somebody
me.
else.
Okay.
This is not my story. So
Okay,
we had
okay.
so apparently like if you went and worked for she worked for the state of Michigan.
Okay.
So apparently like if you worked for the state of Michigan, those were the jobs that were frowned upon in your field.
Because
I don't know.
Okay.
This is not my story. But
that is, I mean, that story changed because I remember people be like, "You got to get you a good government job."
Yeah,
You
this was
never heard
before
I
that.
heard, oh, okay, okay.
And so she worked, I think she worked for the unemployment doing data. And then she worked for another office in the state. And that's where she worked until she retired.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember she would work and she was doing this before it became the it thing, before it became popular. So I told her, I was like, you should have joined BDPA.
Yeah.
But I remember she told the story of how she would go to work. This was when I guess she was still with the unemployment office. And
Mm-hmm.
they would call her and tell her, I want to have the same things for my kids that you have for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
The people that weren't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well,
Go to school.
not even to go
Get
to
a
school part,
job.
like, go to work. Like, they didn't want to work. Like, they would tell her they don't want to work, but they want the same things that she was having. Yes. And she would,
If one
which is
plus
funny
one
because at the
equals-
time she was not that person. She would be like, well, you got to go to work.
Are you sure they were calling and saying they didn't want to go to work? Okay. I mean, it's your mom's story to tell, but okay. Okay, so the reason why I brought it up in the first place is like watching this happen, she can't tell her story anymore.
Right.
So I want to make sure that if someone were ever to, this is so weird that I think about this, but like 100 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
what are people going to say about Ophelia? And I want us to make sure that we leave
Right.
bits and pieces of her story that people, if they were to find a journal or a newspaper clipping, like those things are in museums right now, right? That her story and her legacy is honored in
Well,
the way we want it to be honored.
She wrote a book. So within
She
the
did write a
family,
book. She did write a book.
you know, it wasn't Pulitzer Prize, but she said, I wanted to tell our family story. So she literally wrote a book about the Powell family history. And it actually, the cool thing about it is a lot of it tells a story about blacks in that time period in general. Like when my grandparents, you know, it was my grandfather and his brothers all moved up from Mississippi to Toledo, which
Okay.
is kind of
I mean,
the
the
story of
Yeah,
how
yeah.
we got here. And so she did a lot of research of finding all of our people, but she told a lot about the story in general about how blacks even were treated. Like she talked about in the book how, you know, there was a great flood in Mississippi at some time.
See, I don't know about all these stories. My family's from Mississippi.
Well, she
too.
wasn't part of it. So that's why I say a lot of it is just sharing black people's history as she's telling our family history. Because, you know, they made the black people be sandbags, basically. Like, this is out there, and it's a lot about how evil some of these people were. Like,
So your
on the
option
Mississippi,
was
they
be a
made
sandbag or
black
I
people
kill
actually
you.
go down there and be the sandbags. Like, they made the black people lay next to the Mississippi River.
Can you give me a time period?
I don't know. I'll look at the book and.
Like, are we talking about 19 anything?
Yeah.
Is there a 19 in front of the number? So you know why I ask that is because a lot of people, I work in a space where equity and inclusion is a focus.
Under attack.
Well, I'm saying...
That's what I'm saying. It's a focus, and it's under attack right now.
Correct. But the reason why it's even bigger is that people are like, this stuff happened so long ago. We should stop talking about it. And you're like, nah, there was a 19 in front of the number when people were told that they had to be sandbags. Mm-hmm. Screw the fact that they had families and lives and wanted to live too. You will not make it. Either you're going to be a sandbag or I'm going to hurt you and make you a sandbag.
Right.
They would have to do the latter for me. Mm-hmm. I'm not willingly laying there. I say that because I'm not posed with the question, right? Like, who knows what I would have actually done. Right. But it wasn't that long ago. So when we talk about the fact that the world is still unequal and the barriers that people have to face are real and still living the impact of that racist, overt racist culture, that's why we can't stop talking about it. Because that was somebody's grandparent. Mm-hmm. Or father. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I just want to say, like,
that was her.
No, it wasn't her people. She was telling the story of what happened to our people.
I gotcha.
Down in Mississippi and in those regions, and why, not just my family moved from Mississippi, but part of the reason why we, besides for the jobs.
Yeah.
But why they wanted to get from down there.
So why Toledo?
From my understanding, one of the brothers came up.
Yeah, but they had to pick Toledo.
They came up first. And Toledo was kind of where they stopped. It was one of them initially, is how the story goes. And then once they got here, they kind of told everybody else they need to come on up.
I'm like, Toledo? I'm like, what was popping in Toledo? Because I could understand Cleveland. Mm-hmm. You got Lake Erie.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, and I don't know how they stopped at Toledo, but basically they went north till they hit water. Everybody went to the hit
Everybody
water.
was like,
so that's how all the black people end up Detroit, Cleveland, and Chicago.
Detroit makes sense.
So I don't know if somebody went to Detroit and was like, I ran out of gas and stopped in Toledo about 45 minutes.
They were like,
I don't know how that worked, but yeah, they ended up in Toledo, a bunch of them.
Well, you said 100 of you.
Yeah, and this was, at minimum, like 20, 25 years ago, yes.
Okay, so
it's different because that's a small city. It's not like New York and you got all these cousins. This is a small, it's not rural. It's an urban area, but it's a small urban area.
Toledo is not urban.
They would say they're urban.
Yeah, no. What makes it urban? If Toledo is urban, so is Mansfield.
Mansfield is smaller than Toledo.
Doesn't matter. If Toledo is urban, so is Mansfield.
Well, no, Mansfield got the horse-drawn carriages and the dirt.
The disrespect that my hometown is getting right now is a country city. It is a country city. Yeah. I've been to Toledo. Ain't nothing urban about Toledo. Just saying. Anyway, Mansfield needs more credit. We do great things in Mansfield. The state penitentiary is there. That's how my family ended up there. Not because we were in the pen, but we worked for it. Mm-hmm. Had to clarify, I guess. But yeah, I don't know why the middle of the state of Ohio and not somewhere else.
Because he was a dentist, right? Your grandpa was a dentist?
My grandpa was a dentist.
And he couldn't get a job anywhere else, of course.
Correct. So he worked at the state pen. Couldn't get a job is a soft phrasing for, again, racism. Mm-hmm. And so he was employed at the state pen. Yeah. He went to Ohio State and Howard. Okay, so I want to know if when it came time to tell your story, like what your legacy would be, what would you want people to say about you?
I made a difference. That's
it?
Yeah.
They say that now. Are you done?
No. I haven't made the difference I want to make.
Okay, so what is that?
These boys not killing each other.
Ooh, we've never talked about this before. Is this on your mind?
Yeah, but I also think the work we do ties into it.
Yeah, but we've
And I
never
hate,
really talked about this before.
yeah, I think the killing is because they don't have other options.
Okay.
I think, and for other options, I mean, I'm in the streets. I, if I got a good job, I'm not out here doing stuff.
Is that true?
For the most part, yeah,
So you think if they had other options,
yeah,
we would see less violence?
yeah.
So I don't know if you guys had this where you grew up, but there was this thing where I grew up in Mansfield called E-City.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this big like strip mall thing that had like an arcade and like games. It even had maybe a teen club in it, like all this stuff because of what you're just talking about. Because they felt like if we could keep kids busy and having something to do, they wouldn't be out doing other things.
Yeah,
But it didn't persist.
well, that's partially true, but the other part is once you stop playing arcade, what do?
Okay, so once the games are done, I'm bored.
So,
So you think violence is a
or I'm
symptom of
reaching
boredom?
18 and 19 and I got to find a place to live. And I didn't have the opportunities. So now I'm 18, I don't have a job.
Ooh.
How am I going to do
You're
it?
bringing up something that is a sore subject for me.
Yeah,
Being
so
kicked out of the house at 18
I agree.
is ridiculous.
But here's the thing, and there's a lady, she worked as a probation officer.
Okay.
Her name was Helen Maddox.
Uh-huh.
And we were just chatting. She said, 90% of the men that I see don't have a high school diploma when they first get
In the system.
in the system. She was like, 100% of the dudes in college do. I mean, it's, at the time, you're like, okay, so you got to go to college, you get a degree, or you graduate high school. So we're seeing, and it's that direct link that prison and education are linked.
Yes.
So it's a question of, even if it's not formal education, what are we providing young people to actually go into the world and be okay? There's a reason why when we hire people, we pay like $18 to $20 an hour.
Correct.
Because
And that's still not enough.
it's still not enough.
Yeah.
But the one thing, and this is from a student perspective, if I'm saying, okay, which in many cases some of the young people in other communities have this luxury, I can say, hey, I want you to come and do a research experience for the summer, an unpaid research experience.
No, it can't be.
They're like,
unpaid.
nah, I need to feed
gotta-
X, Y, Z. I need to
Yeah.
do this, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
yeah.
work at Chipotle for $12 an hour. So for me, I said, okay, well, I'll give you $20 an hour. And now I can keep you off the street,
Yes.
but you're learning something that you'll be able to use.
Showing them a different world.
Yeah.
So I asked you intentionally, like, what would your legacy be? And I wasn't joking when I say you've already done the impact thing. But I asked because I am worried that no matter what we do, the stereotypes of who we are will persist beyond our actual work. Because you brought up something that, like, a couple of things that trigger me. Thinking about, like, the myth of Black men, right? Like, they don't care about their families and kids. There is lots of data that refutes that. But yeah, if you were to ask the community as a whole, people would think that Black men are the men leaving their families, leaving women as single mothers, that type of thing. And it's actually not Black men. It's actually white men in the data, right? That are the ones leaving women single mothers. It's not a Black plight, actually. But the stereotype is there. It's not actually, there's no such thing as Black on Black crime. So the violence that we see in the community, it's not real. because the rate for white on white crime is actually worse than black on black crime, but it doesn't get the news coverage. So I'm triggered by the notion of like violence. It's all bad, right? So I don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm condoning the violence. I don't condone the violence. It's happening everywhere, but it's not a black thing. And so I worry because these stereotypes have been persisting for decades, and we do a lot of work to try to make sure people have access, opportunity, and these stereotypes keep persisting even beyond the impact that we've made and the data that shows all of those stereotypes are false. I don't know what to do.
Well, I think you just keep working.
You never lose hope?
No.
Really? I have been down.
I get frustrated, but I don't lose
Oh,
hope.
that's a better way to frame it. I'm very hopeful. And I have faith. I have like this really ridiculous level of faith in myself that I'm going to be able to change things, which could be good or bad. Like it's good some days and bad others because I'm wearing myself thin, but that's a good way to frame it. You get sad, but you keep persisting. Okay, so final thoughts on the work that you do, the legacy that you've brought, any of that. What do you got to say?
I love it.
You're like, I love it. Well, could you see yourself doing anything else? You're an engineer, a chemical engineer, who now runs a foundation. Could you see yourself doing anything else?
I think I would always have a foundation.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't dislike. I think if anything, and I've flipped a couple properties. I think real estate and maybe development. Focus, like not just out here doing stuff to do stuff, but something that was focused. I could do that.
Okay. No, we played this or that before. I don't want to keep playing this or that. Not with you. How about we play Smash, Marry, or Eliminate?
No way. Absolutely not.
Why not?
Nope. I'm not playing this game with my wife. Absolutely not.
Why did I know that was going to be your answer?
You should have saved your energy.
I thought you might be like, I don't know.
Nope.
No? Okay, different game. Okay, not this or that. You won't do Smash, Marry, or Eliminate. Okay, well, then you have to give me your top 5.
Oh, in what?
I'm thinking. What do we want to know? We're going to see a musical. Give me your top 5 musicals.
Hamilton.
Oh my gosh, you're predictable.
Oh, Hamilton.
Give us a bar. No. You know the whole soundtrack by heart.
Pardon me. Are you Aaron Burr? Sir? That depends. Hamilton blew my mind. That was the greatest thing I had ever seen in the stage when I first. And you took me, of course.
Yeah.
You took me, and I was like, I didn't know what Hamilton was. So
I was
you
had never heard of it.
No, and you know I'm a hip hop guy. I DJ'd when I was in school. I love music.
Yeah.
I just heard people talking about Hamilton. Like, we got to go see Hamilton. And I was like, all right. I just. If you ever
That's
see
your
me
favorite song?
from that, oh
He had
yeah.
it coming.
If you see me
There's a
walking
theme
down the
here.
street and just hear me, see me swaying back and forth saying Mr. Cellophane, I apologize. I live through music.
Yeah.
What else would I say I liked? Music. You talking about live shows?
Yeah, live shows that you've actually even seen.
That I've seen. I can tell you what's not in the top 5.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Avita.
Don't cry for me.
They should have saved that for the middle, because I was ready for it. They sang Don't Cry For Me, Argentina in the beginning, and after that, it went downhill. I was like, this.
Okay.
I wasn't feeling it. I apologize to any Avita fans. Because after that first Don't Cry For Me, Argentina, I was like, y'all led with the good part. So
And there was
after
nothing
that,
else redeeming about it? Okay. All right.
I might have fell asleep in that one. What musicals have we seen? We've seen a lot.
Phantom of the Opera.
I like the dun dun dun.
It's my favorite, actually.
Wicked was good.
Wicked is really good.
I'll put in there, and I don't know where I'm ranking it, if it's 4 or 5.
Okay.
And it's probably on no one else's list.
Okay, what?
Sister Act the musical.
No, it was good.
That Sister Act the musical. I love that one.
Yes. No, that was really good. Hairspray. I'm trying to think. You probably didn't like that. That was more of an accompanying me moment.
I probably
The Color Purple.
I didn't see The Color Purple. You saw The Color Purple when y'all went for Miss Black Ohio, for Miss
Yes,
Black
we
USA
did.
stuff.
Yes, I did.
I
How do
didn't-
you remember that?
I remember all this stuff. I would probably
Memory
just
like
to
an
round out the
elephant.
top
Jeez,
5, and
Pete.
I probably will come up with another one later. But I probably would just put Phantom. In terms of musicals that I have seen,
Yes.
I probably would put maybe Nutcracker. It's oldie but goodie. I probably would
The
put
Nutcracker, the ballet?
Yeah, that's a ballet.
I am not a huge ballet movie.
I think I'll put Phantom as number 5. So what's
You know what opera you loved?
what?
Porgy and Bess. I remember
Oh,
when I
yeah.
took you to the opera.
She gets mad because I'll just be walking around like, where
Is-
is your girl left you, homeboy? Like, I want part 2. Like, did he ever go find her?
We do need a part 2.
Like, I just want to know, did he ever find Bess?
In his little. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm bumping Phantom of the Opera and putting Porgy.
But that's an opera.
Oh, yeah, it is.
But you can say for a live show that still makes your top 5.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. It was a good list. Kind of predictable. I could have predicted it. Maybe.
Well, you know me, so.
I do know you. Sister Act. I'm surprised that you brought it up, not that I would bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like your top 5. We're going to go
Thank
see Chicago later, so.
Mm-hmm.
He Had It Coming is my song.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but thank you for joining
Both
me.
Reach for the Gun is good, too.
Oh, yes, it is. See? Okay, Chicago's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me again.
Absolutely.
Awesome.